Greetings, Warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. Joined on this monthly episode once again by Monty. Monty, how's it going, buddy?
Great, Rodge. How about yourself?
Good. So in this episode, we got a few things to hit, but ostensibly our topic is the Age of Hannibal faction overview. So we've done this for Vikings, Crusades, Invasions. We'll go through the factions one by one and kind of talk about their play styles, and then kind of give them our assessment of a difficulty rating, right, Monty? Yep. And sometimes that lines up with Studio Tomahawk, sometimes that doesn't. But then people can come back to this video, use it as a kind of a guide to picking a warband from the book. So that is the main topic. We do have the paint contest as well. And then there are just a few things to address before then. Some Saga news. To picture folder, but looks like it's good. It's good. Okay. Big piece of news here, Monty, and concerning you directly is, Monty, you put in some good time here on the show, but we are going to be saying goodbye to you. Is that right?
It is right. It has been amazing. It's been my honor and privilege to be your co-host for all these years. And it's been an amazing run. And while I'm winding down, I would like to say I'll never be far away, and I'm looking forward to maybe down the road joining the paint contest, or maybe being a guest, right? So
nice. Yeah, get in, get your Thirsty Thursday mug. That's awesome. Yeah, so you're going to be winding down your commitment to Saga Thursday here. So hopefully if people have been listening, watching the show every month, they understand, and just from the comments, some people don't seem to understand this, but the first Saga Thursday of every month is a video with you. And, we talk about kind of timely things, facts, various topics, and we record that every month. So you're going to be recording two more right away. So in June, this is the May episode. So June and July, you'll be with us. And then you're going to take a break. And then we're going to come back and you're going to do one more episode in December. So December 2025 will be the final episode with Monty. But I went back and looked, and some reason I can't find it right now, but you have done 75 episodes of Saga Thursday, Monty. Can you believe that?
If you had me guess a number, I would not have guessed that high. That's amazing.
Yeah, so we're up to like 280, 281, 282 episodes in total. So over a quarter of those episodes you are on, and that makes sense. You do one of the 4 or 5 episodes per month, and then we've done extra battle reports, you've done faction reviews on top of it. So you've definitely earned your Saga Thursday retirement. You started coming on the show in, I believe it's August 2019.
Wow.
So it will be like 6 years, I guess, over 6 years, just about 6 years. So you're going to go through July and then one more episode. That's basically like six years straight up.
Wow.
Of service. And that was Saga Thursday 115, I think. And again, we're up to like 280 something. So that's pretty amazing. So
it is.
Yeah, thank you for all your service, Monty. So fortunately, you got some big boots to fill here, but I am going to be looking for a replacement for Monty, or not a replacement per se, but somebody new with their own take and their own spin on things. And Monty, you're a special guy, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find one person, but I think maybe even maybe kind of a rotating cast, perhaps of 2 or 3 people who are willing to come on every other month or every third month or something, and kind of just go through what we're going through today and on all these other prior monthly episodes, kind of do timely topics and on just a variety of saga subjects. So yeah, I'm looking for a new co-host or two or potentially three here. So if you're interested, anybody watching this, definitely hit me up and we'll get some trial runs. We can even so for August, September, October, November, then I would be looking for some fill-ins. So what would be totally acceptable is somebody kind of interested and they come and do one episode with me and then they decide, they're good. They don't want to do it again. That's totally fine. So I'm just looking for some guest hosts to fill in for August, September, October, and November. And maybe we can turn it into an ongoing thing. But if we don't get people, I should be able to fill in with some solo episodes. People like or don't like those. They have their pros and cons. So we'll still be able to do a Saga Thursday every week in 2025. I'm confident of that, even if I'm not able to find a guest host. 2026, if we don't get a guest host lined up or some kind of recurring helpers, there probably will be a gap in the schedule. Whatever there should be a Monty show, there'll just be an empty week probably in 2026. So hopefully some folks are willing to step up and assist and help keep the show going every single week. And that is about all we got to say about that. So Monty, thanks again for everything you've done so far, and definitely earned some time away. Are you still going to be playing Saga, Monty? Let's address those fears. Are you giving up the game?
No, not at all. I'd like to play more. I don't know. It's been kind of hard to get our Saga local scene what it was pre-COVID here, so we can keep whipping on that. At its very worst, and worst is not the worst, we've got our Saga Storm. We could still do Feast for Crows, and we could try to put together, some fun, friendly narrative events. And then we've got we can hop over to your events, Rodge, and certainly Adepticon is there. But yeah, it's the local scene is a little slow, but we're still whipping on that, hoping we can kind of make that pick up a little bit.
Okay, sounds good, man. All right, well, let's move on. Do want to plug All Father's Day is coming up. This is in Milwaukee, June 21st. So there is still time to register for that. We've got a good showing. A few different states have signed up so far, Monty, and looks like maybe a three-way state battle. If we can get somebody from Illinois to sign up, four-way. Michigan, maybe five-way battle, but it's going to be Invasions, Vikings, Crusades, and Chivalry. So just one kitchen sink out there. We'll see what sticks. But looking forward to seeing how that goes. And we'll be taking lots of pictures and reporting back on that. And I do want to announce Origins, Monty. They are doing Saga there once again. That is on June 20th. So it's the same weekend. A little conflict there. But so on Friday, June 20th, they're doing doubles historical. So that sounds pretty cool. And then medieval, Age of Crusades, and Age of Chivalry on the 21st. So that is over in Ohio there.
Nice.
I believe. Yep. And check out the Saga Thursday Discord for more info on those events. I'm sure they're going to be a good time. All right. The pictures were out of order for some reason here, but we're looking at the first episode with Monty here. Fact, Games, and Hobby with Monty. Saga Thursday 115.
Wow.
That is time. And I think the first one you're on was a Welsh review, and that might be Saga Thursday like 93 or 95, something like that.
That sounds about right. Always love the Welsh.
Pre-100, yeah. Okay. All right. Every one of these monthly episodes, we've got a friend of the show, and that is Reconquer Designs. So Marcos is doing good stuff once again. He's getting into the Scots, Monty. So the latest release is Scottish Pikemen. I'd have you've played the Scots. Are you planning on building Scots?
That would be a good one. That actually would be right up my alley. I just have to wade through all the Castilian horsemen.
Yeah. So these are, I think they're kind of like 14th century primarily. So that's within the time frame of Age of Chivalry. And this picks a little bigger here, but he's got foot guys. He's got the pikes, the cavalry. It looks like he's doing some alternates with the golden dogs. The big spike that the Flemish used, which is just a scary looking piece of equipment there. Like a spear, you could I get stabbed by a spear, maybe I'll be all right. But those like giant spikes on the Godin dogs or whatever there, it's like, all right, you're not coming back from that. If you get poked by that thing, like you're done. Yeah, we'll see ya.
Right.
So yeah, head on over to Reconquer. He is going to have a gift for the lifeguards and warlords this month. It's not, I didn't get that 110% dialed in, but should be something cool. And I'll post on the Patreon once that is confirmed, but it'll be an STL goodie of some kind. And I just want to highlight that he's actually doing like tons of terrain and stuff. I don't know. It seems like every month he has also done a building or something. So looking at this thatched roof here and this giant church that he did. I don't know how you would print that for a small scale. And he's got these old school kind of like, you remember is it like foreground with their like little Saxon huts in medieval? Like every game of Saga had those like thatched roof with like the teddy bear fur houses. Yep. So he's kind of recreated those as a 3D print. But yeah, I think with the building rules back then, you always, if you had any shooters, you want to get those guys in a house if you could. You could even like pile multiple units in there. And thankfully with second edition, they kind of nipped that in the bud. And then all those little cool little houses went away. But I think you could definitely still use those as like ruins or something in a game of Saga. So I just wanted to call out that he's got a ton of buildings now as well. So if you're looking for terrain and stuff, Reconquer will hook you up. Monty. I also have some Rodge Originals shields to talk about this month. So if you are a Hearthguard or higher, you will get these shields as STL files. So there was kind of a little bit of a pivot from last month, sort of. So the release did end up being animals, but these were kind of more like petroglyph or kind of pictogram style animals, so kind of like crude animals. So like last time I showed off kind of the Viking raven and stuff like that. So that's not actually included in this release because there ended up being like as I was going along, kind of being like 3 or 4 different styles of animals. And so I kind of like, I just want to do them all one style. So this will be great for kind of those low tech Saga factions, the way that Saga players represent the Irish, Picts, Celts, Scots, and stuff as quote unquote low tech, or maybe just 1% less technical than their neighbors. But we gotta represent them as barefoot and completely don't have any money or anything. So these would be good for that. I'm planning to use these for my Taste the Rainbow Irish Celtic war bands. I really like how these animals came out. And I did them in 2 styles. So one in like the Dark Age shields, and then second version in slightly smaller, just kind of like generic shields. So I thought these would work really well for Numidians, Monty.
Oh, that's good. Yes, they would.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like low tech pictogram type design. So they're really easy to paint too. And these smaller shields would be great for Numidians or any maybe Bronze Age stuff, or potentially maybe Native Americans or a fantasy version of Native Americans or something like that. You could also use these for. So just a variety of options. But for this month in May, we're going back to that Raven Monty. We're doing Viking shields specifically.
Nice.
So this is kind of like meant to be a booster pack, kind of to the Dark Age sets, and these kind of have Viking-inspired imagery, religious symbols, stuff from the Vikings, literally TV show that the Lagertha shields, and I'm doing some of the other shields from some of the other characters from the show. And these are definitely a lot more complex. So these might make good like Hearthguard or Warlord shields in particular. And these have been a lot of fun making these. And it might be a full release. I think the other sets were 20 shields. This one might be 12 or 16, but it might be a full 20 as well. But it's interesting kind of so this one has like literally doing research and stuff, Monty. And I think for accuracy, like the Dark Age shields, the generic ones might be more accurate than these ones for Vikings, honestly. It's like every one of these symbols I looked up, it only goes back like 100 years or something, and they're just kind of extrapolating, I don't know, on a lot of this stuff. And then, half of these ended up being Nazi symbols created by the Nazis or something, so it's like, okay, not as much historical information to go off of as I imagine, but definitely they're inspired by Viking history, and I think a lot of these would be pretty cool to use. So definitely check those out. And I will say, if you're interested in like buying these physical shields, I will have information on that on the Patreon this month. So that'll just be a public post for everybody to see. So check that out. But all right, I think on to the main topic today, Monty, which is actions for Age of Hannibal. So this was maybe a little overdue. So I think for each one of these, I wait until I have faction reviews for all the factions completed. So I think the last one was with Fool in a Hat and doing the Gauls, and that was at least a few months ago. So I'm finally getting around to this one. So for each one of these factions, there is a full faction review video that you can go and check out. But so we're just going to kind of hit the play styles, how do they play, and could just kind of do some overall thoughts on each one of these. So we did split them up here, but we'll just go in order of the book. So first up is Carthage. So the Carthaginians are, as whenever I type it in a chat, it's Carthagos, Monty. Probably seen that a few times. That's how I refer to them. So these guys, I would say, I would call these like a combined arms faction. They have a little bit of everything as far as ability goes. Some fatigue shenanigans, a little attack, a little defense, some shooting, some movement. So they got a little bit of everything. And you don't have to take shooters, but I really could not imagine playing them without a unit or two of the Numidian horsemen. They seem to. So this is kind of reflecting my personal play style, maybe a little bit, but I know you've played some games with Carthage, Monty.
Love Carthage.
Yeah. So would you ever take a pure melee Carthage? In your opinion, would it like work?
Right. I think. Okay, so I think when I have decided to leave the levy shooters behind, it's because I'm leaning into the mounted warriors with javelins, the Numidian, basically Numidian warriors. So they're giving me my shooting, my elephant's giving me my shooting, and everything moves. So that's that's me. But I also think that a point of levy in Age of Hannibal and with this board is always a good idea.
Yeah. Some people swear by it. For me, this is kind of the one board where I have trouble working them in because all the abilities you want to use take an uncommon. So, like, it's difficult trying to activate them when you got to use it for this or you got to use it for that or whatever. But Yeah, I would agree. I would say your heavy hitters are kind of also your shooters. So the elephant, the Numidian horseman, and then the war chariots, the heavy chariots. Is it just heavy chariots?
Yep, they're good.
So they don't shoot, but so your attack power, I feel, comes from those troops in particular. The auto hits, the +1 to hit, just a boatload of attacks from the chariots. Because I feel the board doesn't actually really give you much in the way of attack power. There is an ability or two, but you really need to roll 4 or 5 uncommons to like unlock all of the attack power that you have. So you end up just kind of relying on like raw saga as far as attack power, because the couple of defensive abilities that are also uncommon are, just a little bit better than the attack ones. And so in my opinion, it's slightly more of a defensive army. I don't know. What do you think about that, Monty?
I would agree. It took me a few games, and I'm so sorry I don't have the board up in front of me.
Yeah,
but
no worries.
There's one particular ability or a couple stacked abilities where you can take a punch, and on the other side of all the dice being rolled, I've come out like with no losses. So 100% agree that they lean defensive, and their ability to just like take that punch and then come back and get you on the bounce.
Yeah. I would say it's just kind of slightly defensive. Sometimes they have to attack, but your abilities don't necessarily line up to enhance those attacks. You're just relying on the auto hits, +1, or just large units to deliver the attack power. So, so combined arms, maybe slightly more defensive. You definitely want some shooting in various forms, but the book rates them as a 2-star up front. I'm gonna rate them a 2-star, and the book does rate them as a 2-star as well. So not the easiest to play. There's definitely some good stuff here. I don't think it's like a slouch of a board, but you definitely got to know what you're up against, and then the issue is your heavy hitters are completely negated by any Sarissa armed unit in the game, it seems like. So, and that's going to be half the war bands you play. So, I think against non-Sarissa factions is pretty darn good war band.
Yep.
And then against the Sarissa factions, then it's kind of an uphill battle. Is kind of what I found. So, a two difficulty rating, Monty?
Agree. 2 is a good one.
Okay,
not the easiest, but also not the hardest.
Yeah, so 1's the easiest, 2's kind of medium, and 3 is difficult. Okay. After that, we have the... Did they put it in the same order? Is it book? It's different. Yeah, so the difficulty chart is in a different order than
just
the
to keep you on your toes.
Just to keep me on my toes. So in my notes we have Rome next.
Okay.
And you
That's me.
Volunteered to talk about the Roman play style.
Yeah. So the play style here, let me start. I think their greatest strength is maybe their greatest weakness, which is it is not like the Carthaginians in that you can come up with so many builds. Like a Carthaginians, you can do this, you could do that.
Yes.
The Romans are a bit monolithic. You 100% want to lean into your foot warriors. That's your basic building block there. There's one ability for the Hearthguard. It's not a great ability, so I've actually, like, this is just me. I'm not saying it's sensible, but I've actually left the Hearthguard at home and just go wild with warriors and 1 point of your levy javelin, your velites or velites. And that is really like where I think this board sings. They are foot sloggers. They have some abilities to hustle down the field a little quicker than you expect foot sloggers to do. They've got decent abilities on here. They got some good defense. They can manage fatigue. I think it's a good, solid Especially if you're new to this age, this might be a good place to start. So yeah, I think not a lot in the way of options. It's kind of monolithic, but that's also a strength in that you don't have to like puzzle over how am I going to put my force together. Put together a lot of warriors, probably build them in 6 or 7 man units because it rewards having smaller units than your opponent when you're in melee. And start rolling these abilities, start rolling your dice, and have some fun.
Cool. So would you say more about combined arms play style again, or maybe you kind of lean it more towards like an attack or defense? Those are mutually exclusive.
Man, that's tricky. See, combined arms makes me think like there's a certain amount of shooting. There's a
cav,
little bit, the cav, I think you're allowed a unit, but then you get into your, and like you look at these abilities, it says warriors on foot, infantry, warriors on foot.
Yeah, I would say, it's probably not really a combined arms in the way. When you think of combined arms, you think of cavalry, shooting units, and foot units. So they have abilities that let them kind of move like cav and kind of shoot as if they were equipped, but I don't think you really need to necessarily take the shooting units. People do like a unit or two of the levy with javelins are never a bad idea, but if you just want to run pure warriors, I think it's good. So if we're thinking just about the warrior build, then do the abilities lean more towards attack or defense? Are you getting attack dice, defense dice, or
it's a little bit of a split. I think it's a little leaning on attack. I think what it is a little attack heavier, some at least one really good defensive ability, and then some good movement. So even though you're like, oh look, we're all foot sloggers, your ability to get your units and move them with a bonus distance of S for 2 units. So you now have 2 foot units moving 10. And they can freely move through friendly infantry units. That catches people out. Also gives you some really cool positioning abilities. So I think movement and a little more offense than defense.
Okay. Well, I would say, in my opinion, I would say defense more than offense. I would say, I mean, you're right. They do have both abilities. But I would say the defensive stuff ends up being a little juicier. There's that one gets you defense dice and rerolls or a +1 or something. So there isn't really an offensive equivalent to that. You've got the reaction where you discount hits and fatigue, and then you have that one attack ability, +3 attacks, and then if you use a rare, you get -3 for the enemy. So, but there are abilities that will give you attack dice, but you're right. It's kind of a mix of both. You can deliver a decent punch and you can take a decent punch. I would say you can even kind of turtle if you wanted. Again, ends up being a problem versus the Sarissa armed factions because you'll be just poked to death. So, this is another faction where I think there's kind of a different difficulty curve if you're up against Sarissas or not. With being up against Sarissas, just more difficult. Because they can still damage you without having to engage. You want to be up close and personal anyway, so be a little challenging. But they conquered the known world for a reason, Monty.
Yes, they did.
Was this warband or the upcoming Imperial one? We'll see which one's got the secret sauce. But how would you rate the difficulty?
I feel like with the equipment options and the builds and then the board itself, I think I'd put this as a 1 star. You could nudge it to 2, but honestly, I'm thinking about some of the other boards, and I think I'd give it a 1. How about you, Rodge?
Yeah, so I would agree within the context of Age of Hannibal. It's a 1 star.
Yeah.
Where if you're comparing this against all Saga warbands, it's probably more of a 2 star, a little more difficult. Once you start incorporating other warband, even just Age of Alexander into the mix. But within Age of Hannibal is probably the easiest place to start. You're not going to go wrong or mix anything up. Saga fundamentals can see you through with this one. So, I would say within Age of Hannibal, it's probably for the easier ones. So, all right. After that, we've got the Gauls. Monty, you signed up for the Gauls as well.
So I did.
What are you thinking of these guys?
This is great to do these back to back because, of course, the Gauls are the mortal enemies of the Romans.
Sacked Rome,
right? Exactly. They never forgot that. They got really salty about it everywhere they went. So I have to say I love the Gauls, and if you like melee and you like going in and you love the Vikings, you love the Saxons, you love the melee oriented warbands, don't look at any of the other boards. Just land on Gauls and paint them up because you're going to love this. They have ability after ability for melee, and they've got a very nice ability to sweep a fatigue in your opponent's turn, which is just so good. You really like, if you play a little Saga, being able to like melee your unit's fatigue, and then before your opponent can jump on you and take advantage of it, you take that fatigue off. Just love it. You can multi-activate for charges. More than one unit can go in. You've got foot units that could shoot. You've got chariots. You've got mounted. You do have choices here. Like, it's melee-centric, but your choices are like, how many chariots do I want? Do I want no mounted? Do I want some mounted? My gosh, you could do. I always dreamed of this and never did it. You want to go wild? You could do a mounted Gaulish faction and just be like the horde of Age of Hannibal and just come pouring across the table and smash your opponent. So playstyles definitely pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's definitely melee oriented. There's going to be some shooting in there. I would say the board actually is surprisingly well-rounded. There's some speed, multi-activations, fatigue management, attack, defense. Unit counts as being armed with javelins, so some shooting and stuff. So another kind of well-rounded board, and not dissimilar from Carthage and Rome, that they kind of gave them a little bit of everything, but definitely more melee focused. And if you're looking for the Vikings of the ancient age, I would say this is pretty good. Yep. Pretty good way, and it kind of plays how you would imagine that they play, kind of pedal to the metal. Especially with our fervor mechanic, just use it, just throw it out there. Just always use it. But yeah, it's decent faction, melee oriented. What would you say for difficulty rating here, Monty?
Yeah, so it's a 2 with the fervor mechanic, and I was trying to kind of weigh in my mind as we're getting to this point, like, is fervor so difficult to manage that it goes to a 3? And I don't think so. I think it's a pretty solid 2. And I mean, you may have a different opinion. Maybe the fervor takes you to a 3. I think in my games as a Gaul that my units tend to live and die quickly, so I don't have to do a lot of fervor management. It's a factor. There are times when your unit has loaded up with fervor, and if you want to go have them make another round and you want to get the most out of them, then you're going to maybe look down and maybe you have to take Tumultuous Gallicus and try to manage fervor. But another approach is just find another unit, throw them in the fray, and once they're dead, you're not worried about the fervor.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it takes it to a 3. It's not too difficult. I would say it really takes them from kind of a 1 to a 2, maybe.
Right.
Because the gameplay is really straightforward. Attack. Half the time you're not going to go wrong. So, I think a 2 on the light side of a 2, probably one of the easier 2s for the Gauls. All right.
I would also, sorry, just before we hop on, I know we're talking about play stuff, but I'd also say there are such great options for painting the Gauls. Like if you love painting and you want a cool looking army, I mean, Victrix does naked Gauls, skyclad. You could do that, and that's actually a pretty quick way to get a bleep ton of warriors on the table. And the chariots, if you want to go wild with chariots, right? So in addition to everything else, your modeling, painting, and visuals on the Gauls can be pretty awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. It's really most distinct of these factions, I would say, because Carthaginian, you can use a lot of sharing. You know, they're pilfering Roman equipment at some point. The Graeculi, you know, you can share a lot of troops between the war bands, but the Gauls are just kind of, they got their own look. So, cool. All right. Up next are the Graeculi. Nice. And this one, I'll look at the board right here. So, we did have a good faction review that was kind of a really specific play style, but so this is a one or split into 3 different sub factions, and the board is meant to be able to kind of cover all those. So you've got phalanxes on foot, no special equipment. You've got javelin boys running around. You've got potentially elephants and sarissa armed troops, and trying to contemplate all that in the board is tricky. So some of these abilities are quite specific or get a boon. Like if a unit's mounted, it gets an additional bonus. There's one specifically for troops armed with javelins. Another one really benefits troops with javelins. I think you really are kind of meant to have a variety of troops with this board. So I'm going to lump it in with the combined arms style. Having some shooting, I think, is a good idea. I would say this board is pretty difficult to play, in my opinion. But go back to faction review. I think stacks. Stacks. I think he found a good way to play them. But if you're thinking about, so he leaned into the javelin levy. But if you're thinking about phalanxes, sarissas, kind of the other versions, this board is kind of all over the place, and in my opinion, lacks a little synergy. And so it's kind of like a raw saga type board where just good fundamentals and mechanics will see you through. But and once again, there's kind of a mix of everything: some defensive, some attack stuff, some activations. There is a little bit of a fatigue charge, no fatigue thing going on. The cool thing about these guys is they have 2 chances to activate during the opponent's turn. So, I mean, Iberians can do that, but these guys can do that and also be out in the open and put up a fight as well. So they do have something a little interesting going on with them. But given everything I said, I would say maybe it runs a little bit defensive. Probably about half of these abilities are defensive. And I would rate them as a 3 difficulty, which is funny because the book gives them a 1. They said it's one of the easiest. Yeah, they gave him a 1. So,
okay.
So difficulty in army building, and then with the board itself, when I have played it, I've been kind of torn between using the abilities and the restrictions on them. Thoughts, Monty?
Yeah, I agree. It is a 3. I've had some good games with them, but it definitely is a board that will take some reps, I think, for you to get your legs under you. I'd also say this is a great opportunity if you're thinking about something or like, is this for me? That's what Tabletop Simulator is for. If you don't want to be like me and you paint something and go, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake, play it in Tabletop, see if you can figure it out. And also, if you're in the Saga Thursday Discord, you can find someone who play Age of Hannibal and maybe help teach you some of those tricks for that faction. So I do think they're interesting. I do like some of the unique plays, but it is definitely a 3 and takes a little work.
Yeah. So this board too, I think, once we get outside of Age of Hannibal, is a little eclipsed. So if you're running the Graeculi, the Epirus version, well, he's a successor of Alexander, so you could just use the successor list and all the troop types and stuff carry over. And I think most people would disagree that board is a lot easier to use, more powerful, and a lot juicier than this one. And same thing, if you're running it as Syracuse, so Greek hoplites and stuff, well, just use the Greek board from Age of Alexander.
Nice.
That one, the play style probably is closer to what you imagine the hoplites to be in some respect. A lot faster, maybe, than most people would imagine, but probably closer to what people imagine the gameplay style with the line of battle mechanics. So really, this one is like if you're kind of interested in those javelin troops, and then this maybe is a good board if you kind of want to run javelin, foot slug, and warriors or levy in the age of ancients here, then this board is probably a good fit for that. And we've seen in the faction reveal, most of the synergy seems to revolve around that than the Greek or the successor version of it. So yeah, at the time that was the only option for those war bands, but with Alexander, yeah, check out those other war bands, then try to lump it in with the Graeculi. But if you're playing local games, if you're a good player, playing against locals who aren't as sophisticated in their saga strategery, then running those faction successors or Greeks as the Graeculi, I think would be a great way to give yourself a little challenge, exercise some new muscles. So just a little bit more difficult faction. Next up, we have the Iberians or Numidians? Iberians, Monty.
Okay.
So, man, you got some Spanish blood in you.
Yeah, I do. I do love somewhere. Spanish. No, I don't, but I love their history. I love their story. I love all of their factions. And the Iberians are another one. I mean, there's a cool corner here, history if you ever want to dig down the rabbit hole. Sartorius, he was a Roman who had to flee and set up shop in Iberia and did amazing things fighting the Roman legions. But I digress. So the Iberians are really interesting. Unlike, well, I would say, okay, rather than naming all the warbands they're unlike, they're a little bit like maybe the Welsh, where they have the ability to operate in your turn. And that's really their trick. Like their trick is really built around in your turn, building up your guerrilla tokens, and then in your opponent's turn, doing activation reactions with those same guerrilla tokens. Now, because the way this is built, it's a bit complicated. It's a bit different. But then again, you're operating between your opponent's activations with your activation reactions. So your board, I kind of feel like the board abilities are a little muted because your strength is operating out of turn. And so your basic board abilities, you're not going to smash them probably in your turn. You're not going to get a lot of dice. You're going to do smaller things to build your guerrilla, and then you need to find those raw saga opportunities during your opponent's turn. So so that's kind of the play style. I would say this is combined arms because you definitely want shooting. You want a good amount of shooting. You probably want some mounted, and you want some foot, and everyone needs to have a role and kind of operate in their space to help with the mission. So I think combined arm works here. Yeah, it's tricky.
Definitely, you want some shooting.
Yes,
and maybe this is a board with the shooting warriors. Much maligned, perhaps, by the Saga veterans. But are you really?
Right.
Could you just take the levy? Did levy just have javelins versus?
I think so. Yeah, if you want the slings, you got to do range. Warriors.
Yeah, so trickier unit to use, and then there is a great ability that utilizes the horsemen. So a little bit of everything, like some of our other war bands, isn't a bad idea. And yeah, the strength is the reaction. And are you reacting to attack, Monty, would you say, or reacting to get the heck out of there, typically?
Right. So guerrilla is an ability that's after an enemy activation, which can make it just a little bit chess-like. Like if you're playing into the Iberians and you don't want him to mess with you, and there's one thing you really want to get done, you do that thing as your very first activation. You don't want to necessarily rest, because if you rest, they could, activate to move away.
One
they
step
could
ahead,
yeah. So there's a little bit of a game within the game that you and your buddy, if you play into Iberians or you play them, that you're going to get into sync with. But it's really interesting. The one small caveat I would make is that if you're playing the Iberians, really, really try to be succinct in your activation reactions. At its very worst, right? At its very worst, if you're quite slow in Saga, if you're quite slow in puzzling things out, your opponent goes to have a turn and you go, wait, and then you sit and you study your board, and then time goes by and your buddy's like, I just want to have my turn.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. So I think people have mentioned, I don't know, in that faction review or other times, you can almost play more in the opponent's turn with the Iberians because you're just kind of setting things up. And okay, I'm all set. Let's go. I want them. I'm just going to play my turn on your turn if that's cool with you.
Exactly.
So what would you rate the difficulty then? How many stars?
I think this is a pretty easy 3.
Yep.
Because if you don't fill up your gorilla tokens, and also I would say there's no activation pool, so the Iberians suffer from a death spiral as their saga dice disappear. There's less and less they can do, and as there's less and less they can do, there's less opportunities to refill their gorilla tokens. And so I have found back when I played them that my opponents wisely figured out that they were happy to trade units. And, they can, get down to 3 saga dice and roll that up to 4 to 5 to 6 sometimes. I get down to 3 saga dice as the Iberian. I have 3 saga dice. That's all I got. And then suddenly you're like, yeah, this gorilla mechanic isn't working very well for me.
Yeah, like you said, so some of the abilities are kind of muted, or they just like give you gorilla tokens rather than, souping up your units. So a lot of it's going to come down to careful gameplay, having a plan, sticking to it, the sequence of events, trying to stay ahead of the opponent. So if you're using the shooter warriors, we know how vulnerable those are. So kind of a difficult faction. Got backed to be a little bit even more difficult than it was before, but definitely a war band for more of a saga veteran, I would say, for sure. And I think a 3 is well deserved. Right, the last faction is Numidian, so I'm up for this one, and this is a interesting faction. No Hearthguard, all javelin mounted warriors. You can take an elephant if you want, or some footslogger levy, which normally I like, but I'd probably still work on this board, but they're not super well supported. But basically, the abilities are movement based, speed based, and more attack than defense. And if all your troops are armor 3 in shooting and melee, that creates a problem for keeping your troops alive. So this is a shooting-based board. I would say you're probably going to have some melee mixed in as well with the Javelin Warriors, but you're going to have trouble keeping your troops alive. And the best way to do it is to move them back 18 inches away from the enemy. So, not dissimilar to the Iberians, but you're just moving on your turn to get as far away as possible. Come up and shoot, maybe move back far away. I haven't actually played with or against the Numidians, so this is just based off the faction review, kind of my saga eye here, but I would say it's definitely more hit and run style, attack based, revolving around the horsemen. You could take, was it 48 mounted warriors would be perfectly fine if you wanted to do that. So it is kind of a one trick pony. If your opponent can deal with one of those units, they could probably catch them all. If they can't, then they can't. So potentially for some one-sided games, but I think most factions could probably put up a decent fight against the Numidians. Bonnie, have you played with or against Numidians?
I have. It's been a while. And the interesting thing, like to your point here, that their specialty is shooting, is that shooting in Saga, as we know, is very swingy. And the Numidians are not putting out shots like your machine gun factions, which is actually makes for a better game, honestly, right? So the shooting could sometimes be like, oh, you just can't make your saves. But alternately, there are times when you make most your saves. And then I think it nudges the Numidian player to start looking at making charging in their armor 3 javelin warriors, which could be okay because they do have javelins. So if they're going into something that can't close ranks, you're on a +1. So all of a sudden it's evenses. Or if you could go in to charge mounted Hearthguard, you now are hitting on 4s.
It's more of a trade situation.
Yeah, it is a trade.
So you gotta know enough about Saga to know when it's a good idea to trade this unit, because you're not gonna be able to keep those javelin guys alive.
No,
typically melee, unless you pick a particular target. So I would rate this a 3 for difficulty if we're just kind of thinking about the overall Age of Hannibal war bands. You have to play it correctly. You'll be brutally punished if you make a movement mistake. What do you think, Monty?
Agree. The other thing is to get used to it when you're playing mounted or mostly mounted or all mounted war bands. They have a very big footprint, and it's easy for your units and figures to be tripping over themselves. And if there's some terrain, that kind of squeezes down your space to operate. And when you get into a lot of the scenarios in Saga that are objective based, they want you to camp around an objective or pick up an objective. Suddenly your juicy shoot and scoot your days are done.
Yeah, that's a good point. When an objective play is mixed in, and got another level of challenge there. Can't really hold it. You can't really run away. You can't just leave it alone because the opponent will grab it. So, quite a few challenging scenarios probably out there for the Numidians. If they can't play the way they want to play, that's going to be tough as well. So, definitely another kind of challenging warband. You're right about the footprint. It's a shame because 48 cav is super imposing on the tabletop. Somebody in Minnesota would run 48 cav Normans. Now, I don't know who that was, but when they set up that line of Norman cavalry, is like, holy crap, it filled up the entire deployment zone. You're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So you could probably induce that feeling with your opponent, with the Numidians as well, but kind of following up, delivering the damage as well as the Normans do. So it's very fun warband, though. I think I would like to play them at some point. I'm getting close. I think I got 4 points worth of horsemen.
Yep.
Just need an elephant, some foot sloggers, and I think I'll give them a shot. But all right, so I think that does it. 6 factions in Age of Hannibal.
Nice.
And obviously we'll get to Age of Alexander at some point with a similar thing, working through the faction reviews on those guys. So yeah, if folks have any opinions on what they heard here as far as the difficulty or the play style. So, we half of these or more, we kind of, are they combined arms or not? So anytime you have a combined arms list, you can obviously lean super in to the melee or the shooting aspect of it. So I'd be curious if somebody plays like a pure shooting Carthage or pure melee Carthage, or the Graeculi all shooting or all melee or something. Just kind of interesting ways to think about it. And we've kind of given our thoughts, and that's not necessarily the only way to do it. So definitely chime in with your ideas. But let's move on, Monty. We got the paint contest. And picture's better here.
Got it.
But the paint contest. So this was in honor of the 2 major Adepticon sponsors, which were Gripping Beast and Wargames Atlantic. So the contest this month was to paint a unit from Gripping Beast or Wargames Atlantic. So there's a lot of plastic kits out there. Obviously, tons of Gripping Beast medals. I don't think Wargames Atlantic has medals that I can think of, but they do have tons of 3D prints. So there's quite a few options for folks out there. And let's pop on over to the Discord and see what we're working with here.
Yeah.
Click the right.
Got it open.
Box. Yep. I got it open over here. And all right. So I don't know what it was, the time of year or what was going on. Not quite as many entries as previous. contests. I think we had 6 or 7, maybe. With a few, there's always a few people who bite off more they can chew. Monty, they can't quite get to it. So
right, life intrudes.
But all right, well let's take a look. Let's see what we got. Got a lot of pledges here. Yep. First up, we got Wargames Atlantic Irish from Fool in a Hat. So I'm digging these guys right here. Monty, thoughts?
I mean, anytime you're willing to do hand-painted shields, that's S tier. That's a lot of work. It's the kind of work that sometimes brings me to my knees, but I love it. It's a very distinct look when you do that work yourself. I also really like, they look like they're grungy. They look very angry. And thinking of Ireland, like they've really leaned into it on the basing. There's just very nice tall tufts. It looks like Ireland.
Yeah, very luscious bases. I got inspiring for me. Go back, do some lush stuff. Be curious, like what these little like plants are on here. I like these. They look good. Whatever these little plants are, I'd be curious. Really Fool in a Hat, if you can tell me what those are, I'd love to pick some up. I've been interested in adding some stuff like that to my basing, but not like flowers. I mean, a lot of people use flowers and stuff, but these look like a good alternative to just using flowers. Yeah, nice work on the shields there. Good designs. That spiral was tricky and kind of, it's not perfect, but I think it's got a good look to it. And a quick one there. Looks like speed paints for the most part, and speed paint over pre-shade. So yeah, get the job done. Decent work. Right. Sagas of History. So the warriors with composite bow. We got looks like a warlord up front here. We'll have to discount that. Monty, don't look at that warlord. Okay. Cover it with your hand. But so gripping beasts, and this is the heavy or the light cavalry set. But he did a great job here. And looking at these shields and stuff, Monty, we were talking before. This is pretty bananas.
Yeah.
These shields here and effort that went into them. These are awesome.
I love it. I mean, I'll just repeat it, Rodge. When I can bring myself to hand paint my shields, especially on the Islamic front, I tend to pick, block and simple and things that are easier to do. And none of the shields as he picked here are easier to do. These are all a lot of detail, very time consuming, and it looks awesome. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, and then part of the unit, so there's no stipulations against it. So even painted like the quivers and stuff with like a little freehand stuff. And then this green color, I'm looking at the banner guy. I'm kind of like mesmerized by this green. I like, maybe you post painted models, somebody's always like, what paint did you use? Like, that's like the least of what's going on there. But I have to ask, like, what paint is that green? Like, it's kind of a jade. It's like luscious with the white and like, I don't know, it's kind of mesmerizing, that kind of green. And then the banner, hats off to you. Saga Thursday hat is coming off.
Right.
I haven't exposed these follicles for a decade, Monty. Hat's coming off for this banner here. So very well done.
Yeah.
On the banner there. And he went up close, like, you can tell he painted it by hand, but it looks good, man. It's awesome.
That is S tier work. When I first was looking at this, I thought it was a Little Big Man studio banner, and then I zoomed in. I'm like, oh no, wow! And even better, like you look at one side, if you flipped it over, you'd see all that work done a second time, which is the hardest part about this.
Well, we don't know, Monty. From these pictures here, it's hard to say. Sagas of History, he might have just painted one side specifically. For the contest here. You're right. Yeah, painting it 2 times, I can't imagine how difficult that is. And what it is with the painting here or the style, but like I don't know if that's speed paints or what, where it's just like there's darker spots and lighter spots.
Yeah.
And especially like if you look at the banner guide, there's darker and lighter spots on the rider, which may or may not correspond with like shading and stuff. But it's just kind of interesting. The shield has it.
Yeah.
The banner has it, which is fine. And then like the quiver, the blue quiver has it. I don't know if that's intentional or just kind of like an artifact from speed painting or the way that he does it or whatever. But that's really, really interesting. Something I've never considered, just kind of that it's kind of dirty, but like, it's interesting. Looks good. It's got detail to it, whether it's intentional or not. So very, very well done. Really, really cool figs. Okay. Next up, Michael O. And met him at Adepticon. Glad to see him joining the fray here. And these are Norsgale Levy guys.
Yeah.
I like this dude on the end. Big head of hair here.
It is.
He put a basket on his head.
I know these figures.
Yeah, these must be like metals, right?
Yeah, all metals, gripping beast,
metal spears,
metal spears too.
A little droopy.
Well, they're the softer,
the soft ones.
Softer metal,
is what it is.
Yep.
Nice. I like the blue, and kind of keeping it together with the color schemes, not going too nuts or wild. Keeping the it's got like yellow hair that's kind of reflected on the pants too, or maybe that's kind of like a light green, but kind of the same tone. The blue and then kind of the browns and stuff. And then the basing is really cool. I like that chunky moss.
Yep.
Mossy stuff. It's good.
Great interest.
All right. Martin Teasdale once again showing off some beauties here. Went for the horses.
Yeah.
As well. Monty, what do you think of these guys?
I'm a huge fan. I always love, like, it's time consuming to do, but that I think these are called, I'm no horse expert, but this coloring is American paint, the brown and white. It's just so cool together. And also extra points for striped shirts. Every time I decide I'm brave enough or foolish enough to paint striped shirts, I always get like the main body going one direction, and then I get to the arms. I'm like, wait a minute, what direction are the stripes supposed to go on the arms? And I think he's got it right here. So very, very nice.
Yeah. So great overall. Love the splotchy brown and white horse. I'm always like, next time I paint horses, I'll do a couple like that. And then when I paint the horses, I'm like, I'll do that next time. I'm too busy right now to try to do that. So he finally bit the bullet. He did it, and it looks great with like the pink muzzle.
Yeah,
and then the white and the brown. And how do you do the shading and stuff? Really cool. He's doing lots of little micro textures and stuff on here. And a lot of the time I do that, and then I just kind of paint over it, change my mind. But he stuck with it.
Yes.
The stripe guy looks cool.
Yep.
Good way to do it, like you say. Splits off the sleeves there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, very, very well done.
A lot of work.
That club there, that's from Wargames Atlantic.
I think so.
Irish kit. I'll be hit with that for sure. Up. Greek 31789. One day I will print my backgrounds. But it's not this day. Right. Wargames Atlantic Peasants. And these are Taborites, Monty.
Yeah, hardcore.
That's perfect. Put through the wagon in there.
Yep.
Love that color is right on point. The color of these guys. Mm-hmm. Once again, keeping it muted. The whites, browns, greens. All looks good. I think good for Taborites here.
I think so.
Just to say about these lads, but got them done.
It's wild. The weapons they have, they can both kill you and go out and farm.
Yeah, do hard days farming, and then get back to your shed. There's some marauders there, and beat them to death. All right, meta ad infinitum. This looks like, are these the Roman deserters?
Yes, good eye,
Romans?
Rodge. Good eye.
Okay, thought so. There's kind of the variety of weapons, and then that dude with the eye patch is pretty cool. He's like lost his eye. He's like, screw this. Like, I'm done, man. I'm done with Rome. I've been paid for 6 years. Things have changed. Obviously, the shields, very cool.
Very nice.
Done. I like this little critter here.
Yep.
Friday, the red and white.
Very nice color theme.
Some weapons here. Yeah, one of the cooler metal kits from Gripping Beast, for sure. These deserters. So very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, fortunately, April 28th timestamp, 4:55 a.m. We cannot include for the prizes, but we can definitely review the ABGs, generic Dark Eighth Hearthguard, and use in a couple different heads here. And we can see just kind of head swaps using the different weapons supplied, make them really pop in compared to, if you assemble them the way that they come in the box, you got 3 versions basically. But these look great. These are awesome.
They do. Yeah. Oh, and I recognize these. Some of these are, you're right, the I believe Victrix head swaps.
Yes,
I think the Germanic one there.
The 2 in the middle are the Victrix ones. He kept one of the old heads. I've used that on some of my guys as well.
Sure.
But the Wargames Atlantic, the dude with the blue and yellow shield.
Yep.
That had Viking, Victrix Viking head for the guy in the end. The guy in the end with the axe. That dude's awesome.
Yeah, love it.
I'm curious about the shields here. So obviously I've been doing those kind of 3D shields here. Are these metal shields or prints as well? Let me know.
Yeah.
With all these little studs and stuff here.
Right.
Definitely is in the same vein here. So I'd love to check these out. I do personally, I do not like these little studs on these, Monty. So my opinion, if you want little studs, you can paint little studs by just putting little dots on your shields, and kind of doing these little studs and painting around like a black line around them is kind of a penis,
right?
Anus,
right.
So I probably won't see that in any shields I do, but there's nothing wrong. If you like those studs, go for it. Just curious if these are prints or metal shields or whatever, because this is cool. I like them.
Very nice. I'd also like to shout out. I had to go to the third picture. The close-up shows he's got some very subtle highlights on the shields and very nice shading. Like you said, like a lot of work to sit there and pick out each of these. It would kind of drive me crazy, especially the one that's red and white. It's got like 3, 6, 7, 14, 21, 28 little nuts, little bolts to paint.
Yeah, I think, like I said, he did kind of. I mean, obviously, you can do a bigger black around it, and then just the silver touch. You wouldn't do silver, and then you could do it as a white. You probably mix up both, but yeah, it's tough to do and make them look good. But I think he did a great job here.
Very nice.
I really like how these turned out.
Yeah.
So for my Bright Age Warriors, I have to do some of these guys matching. I think I do have a couple of sprues left, but all right. Yeah. Nicely done. Fortunately, came in a little bit after the deadline. So Monty, I think just 6 options here. Maybe what are your top 2, would you say?
I mean, it's always hard, and respect for all the people who are willing to put their stuff up here and have us kind of wade in. I love the mounted. I love Martin Teasdale's stuff, and I love Sagas of History. Those would be my 2 favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, a discussion here. Yeah, they kind of got their pros and cons. Between those 2, that's our top 2. But we're going to give it to Sagas of History. So what put it over the top was Martin painted 4 and he painted 8. So painted twice as many guys. And then the shields, the kind of the freehand. So Teasdale, he could have, Monty. He could have done some freehand on his shields. And he took the easy way out. He just did plain old wood. I did put the slashes in there.
Yeah, that's
cool,
right.
But, so Sagas of History, obviously the freehand shields were amazing, and then just that banner probably sealed the deal for him for the win this time. So congratulations, Saga of History. Get a Thirsty Thursday pint glass. Please send me a message with your shipping details. I'll get that to you. So we are going to give away a random prize, though. .org, verifying human. So six people this time. Those are pretty good odds, right? 5 pounds.
Very good.
I can't remember if we exclude the winners or not. For one is behind my camera here, Fool in a Hat. So congratulations to Fool in a Hat for winning the 25 pounds Gripping Beast gift certificate. Thank you for participating, and well done on your entry of the Irish Years. Probably one of the quicker ones to do. So too bad. That was fun. All right, so
very nice.
That is gonna be kind of wrapping it up here. So Fool in a Hat, do get a hold of me. Get you your Gripping Beast gift certificate. But I do want to say thank you, though. So it's been a while since I updated these lists here, but Monty, I made some time to thank got here Sean, Patrick, Mitchell, Scott, Britt, DJ, Robin, Damian, Callandon, and the rest of the Saga Thursday patrons. Wouldn't be doing these extra shows without you guys. And of course, can't forget the Warriors as well. These guys are making it happen, and really appreciate it, guys. I will say for the Patreon, we're going to be doing a challenge, a painting challenge. We've done it the last 2 years, coming up in June here. So we're going to be doing it again. I do have an idea, not 100% locked in to announce it here, but stay tuned on the Patreon. So that's open to all patrons joining that challenge. And yeah, other things you can do. Check out the Discord. Quite a few members there. So head on over. The link is below in the video description. And coming up here, I do got quite a few faction reviews. There's 5 weeks this month. So maybe we'll have 2 faction reviews this month. Some other stuff to fill in the gaps. I don't know. Should have done more homework before I got here, Monty, but just running by the skin of my teeth like usual. But we are going to have a good May. I just know it. So that is going to be it. Once again, I'll just throw out Monty. Beautiful Monty. Only has 3 more episodes with us. And if you would like to sort of come in, not replace Monty, but kind of offer a different perspective on a monthly episode basis, I'm looking for some volunteers there. So even if somebody could do a 2 or 3 every other month or every 3rd month or something, maybe we can balance the load between a few different people here. So definitely get in touch with me, and we'll get a couple folks lined up for the second half of the year, hopefully fill in those gaps, and then we'll see Monty again in December. But Monty, thank you once again. I just kind of had a random idea one day, and I'm like, I bet he would come do the show with me. And I sent the message. Did I send you a Facebook message? Is that how I asked you?
I think so. Yeah.
Just shy young man sending an older man a Facebook message asking to connect.
Wow.
You know, and a beautiful relationship developed, Monty, for this time. Maybe people would phrase it differently, but not me, buddy. Wouldn't change a thing.
No, it's been awesome.
Comment below about any old thing you see in the video here. And yeah, we'll check you next time. We got a couple more with me. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll talk to you later, folks. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.